Started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Well, off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Sure is. And welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us, of course, on Twitter at podcast_hockey. And Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast. YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we currently sit at 100. And Cameron Gauntz, former Tampa Bay Lightning, played 5 seasons in the NHL, including with last year's Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning team, 33, and he wore the jersey number 33 with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and so we have that. Just give me one quick moment here. I'm just in the middle of doing 2 things at once, and of course you can subscribe to the audio after this. I just saw this tweet. And this relates to where the current status that we are in. It is a tweet from Abbotsford basically saying, in a nutshell, that based on this heat, it's very clear that the Abbotsford hockey team needs to be named the Heat. It's expected to be the hottest week in ever. So normally we play hockey in, minus 20s, minus 30s. It is currently, as I look at my little weather thing here on the iPhone, it is currently 34 degrees as we are here in Burnaby, with a high of 39 today expected. Devin, Chris, what is the temperature in Calgary as we are doing this?
It's funny because, I feel like Chris and I are both boiling in our respective houses, or in my apartment in his house. But it's not that hot here in consideration to what you guys have going on. So I feel bad for complaining. It's 28 degrees right now.
yeah, my phone says 28 with a high of 35 for today. But yeah, we're still in the 20s right now, so we're being little bitches right now.
Oh, jeez, I'm enjoying the heat. I'm a fan of the heat, so I'm okay with this. But it is hot. It is not hockey weather, but we are talking hockey. How is everyone doing? Other than the heat, what's going on? Devin, what are you drinking?
This is one of the very first times that I've had ice or cold coffee. And I don't know, it's a weird thing. I don't know if I'm a fan of it, but it's definitely helping my overall temperature and regulating it properly. Otherwise, I think I'd be sweating out of every single pore, as I'm already am. So it's different for me.
Chris, what are you currently doing?
I'm not drinking it. I simply have a cold can of beer to put on the back of my neck, because apparently that's where I trap all my heat.
Fair. I've got my coffee because I always have to have a coffee and it stimulates me, and I got water and Gatorade. So I'm triple fisting right now as we go through this. If you have any comments and questions, what are you drinking? What's going on? How are you feeling about things? You may notice I have a new shirt in the back. The Montreal Canadiens and Tampa Bay Lightning, as this is the Stanley Cup Final. We'll get to that. I got to tell you that I walked into Van City down on Seymour yesterday. John's has a whole bunch of Montreal Canadiens stuff, like jerseys galore with names, T-shirts with names. I go in and say, I need a Tampa Bay Lightning shirt. He gave me a funny look because, it's all Montreal Canadiens stuff. And he's like, what the hell are you doing, dude? And I said, look, no, I have a podcast and I need to put my Tampa Bay up to video, and he's like, "Okay, you mentioned Van City, I'll give you the shirt for free." But we mentioned Van City last week anyway, so I don't have a problem saying this because they have a bunch of paraphernalia out there. So go check them out. Van City Sports on Facebook and Instagram. They're not on Twitter. So shout out to them, Chris. I know you know them as well.
Yeah, I used them quite a bit when I was living out in Vancouver, and my last purchase from them would have been my Canucks military practice jersey.
Nice.
And you can order online from them as well.
Cool. And yeah, they're a mom and pop shop, so definitely want us to help support them instead of, giving your money to Sport Check or something else.
Fair.
Yeah, fuck you, Sport Check.
There goes the sponsorship deal.
There goes that sponsorship.
I have a buddy who's a manager down in Cochrane, Sean Campbell. Shout out to you. He's the manager at Sport Check. So it's more so towards Sean than it is towards Sport Check. So fuck you, Sean.
Jeremiah already in. He says it's a balmy 55 degrees in Anchorage, Alaska, which is like 13 degrees Celsius. I will welcome to 10 degrees warmer, which I'm sure you guys would like 10 degrees cooler.
Yeah, we can be in the middle.
Yep, definitely okay with that.
Yeah. Yo, when it rains here in Vancouver, though, I got to tell you, the nudity is not going to be held just at Wreck Beach. People are going to be dancing in the streets naked in the rain. I'm predicting. Well, I will not be part of it, but
how often the naked bike rides and whatnot happen in Vancouver, that does not surprise me. I totally believe that.
Yeah.
You guys are progressive over there.
We are very progressive. Yes, for sure. Let's go backwards and let's start with recapping what happened between Tampa Bay and the Islanders. A really good game, 1-0 game. It was pretty much all Tampa Bay for 2 periods. The Islanders made a spurt late in the third, but Tampa Bay was pretty much in control throughout. And, all things considered, I felt that the Islanders had the momentum. Tampa Bay found a way to do it, and they're back to the Stanley Cup for the second consecutive year and the third time in 6 seasons.
Gross. That is ridiculously gross. How talented that team is, and potentially if they can go all the way this year, and you can maybe start talking about the dynasty role that they have going on there. I think overall, I personally was a bit disappointed with the game. It was a bit of a womp kind of feel to it for me. The fact that the only goal that was scored was shorthanded, and granted, great goal by Yanni Gourde. But I don't know, it was a bit of a lackluster Game 7 for my liking, especially for the semifinals, no conference final, but semifinals. And I was expecting more out of Bear Trotz and the Islanders, and it was just. I think the reason why I feel this way as well is because obviously the team I was cheering for was for the Islanders to come out on top, especially since Tampa is just so dominant. Overall it was just lackluster for me.
I concur. I kind of thought it was a bit of a snooze fest as far as Game 7s go. You would have hoped that the Islanders would have shown up like they did in Game 6, but I guess Tampa was Tampa, and the Islanders ran out of gas.
Yeah, it felt like an Islander team that did run out of gas. Like they had to come back in Game 6, and sometimes you just run out of gas, and that's the way it is. And Tampa can play any which way you want. You want to play high scoring, Tampa's there. You want to play low scoring, Tampa's there. There was 8 minutes in the third period. 6 to 8 minutes, I want to say that there wasn't a single shot on goal from either team. And it was nonstop. Like, it wasn't like we have a stoppage in play. It was nonstop 6 to 8 minutes. It was really weird in that sense, because you would think that even with the high
power of Tampa Bay to be able to get a shot on Varlamov. But yeah, it was that was kind of a weird little quirk to it all. But it kind of underlines how exciting that game was. And it not saying it wasn't exciting. It just, I was just very surprised that Tampa wasn't able to push a little bit more to try and get that goal. But it is a good overall game if you are a Tampa Bay fan, because obviously there was nothing really to get the momentum in the Islanders direction. And it was just mind-boggling that was the Game 7 that we were all expecting and not expecting, but that happened.
Yeah, I guess the one thing from the other, we'll get to Montreal and Tampa here in a second, everyone. But from the Islanders' perspective, the one thing that I do think was a win, if you're an Islanders fan, Matthew Barzal, especially the last two games, I think started to grow into a better player. His 22nd puck handling of the puck in Game 6 was a turning point. I thought, not all the Islanders were strong, but he certainly was. In Game 7, and I think that the emergence of where Matthew Barzal's game is at right now, if you're the Islanders, that is one win that you can get out of, and you have a budding potential star center that you can build your franchise around.
Here. Yeah, totally agree with that.
He has right now he has 2 years left. On his deal at $7 million. And I'd say that is very much on par for the type of play that he has given to the Islanders and Islanders fans. It's funny because he is a star within this league. His speed, his skill, his ability to have that skill at the speed that he skates at is spectacular. I don't know. I'm not saying he's not getting enough, the proper amount of credit, because I think he is, but I don't think that people actually know how good he is within that organization.
And that's credit to Barry Trotz and working with him, because there was times even last year that Trotz was benching Matthew Barzal. So this is another case where you worked with him. And he's starting to take that next step. So that's also credit for Barry Trotz. That defense is strong. I think overall, I think, and they've got some, you got Noah Dobson, who's still coming up. They've got a good tandem in goal. To me, if I'm the Islanders, the thing that I'm wondering about is the skill on the wings and outside of Barzal. I think ultimately that is where, I'm not saying you have to match Tampa Bay necessarily skill for skill, but if it really looked like Tampa Bay was like, we will not let Barzal beat us. Anyone else we're okay with, but Barzal is the guy that we need to stop. And then when it's that cut and dry, I think that's where it becomes a little bit of a problem when you're contending for a Stanley Cup.
Well, especially when you have that is their top guy, and if you can shut him down, give anybody else a shot there. I was a little underwhelmed with Palmieri. I thought that he could have given a little bit more, especially for what they gave up. They gave up a first rounder for him, along with, what was that trade? It was Zajac. Zajac, AJ, and Palmieri for AJ Greer, Mason Jobst, and the first round and a conditional fourth rounder. So it was a lot to give up for them to not get a proper amount of production from a player of that ilk. And he's a veteran within this league. So I was very much underwhelmed within that. Once again, I've mentioned this before. They definitely dearly missed Anders Lee, bringing in that leadership and having your captain who can produce the way that he does. He's a big body. I think that they would have been. Let me ask this question to you guys: would having Anders Lee on the team for this playoff run, how much more of a difference would that have made? Would that have been able to push them over the edge and beat the Tampa Bay Lightning?
I mean, they got to Game 7 without him, so and it was a 1-0 game, wasn't a blowout like that 8-0, which I would consider an outlier game. I would say, yeah, it would have made an impact, and it might have been just enough to push it over to actually be able to beat Tampa.
I'm not sure if that, to me, I mean, I like Anders Lee. I still don't know if even with Anders Lee, do you have enough skill to win? Because, okay, you got into maybe Anders Lee gets it to overtime, and then it's a puck bounce either way.
Yep.
But it's still, to me, still the Islanders still lacked a little, like, especially in the Eastern Conference, which, by the way, we now have an Eastern Conference final as a Stanley Cup final. We have actually an Atlantic Division final as a Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
You definitely need to have that skill. So can I start with my bold prediction? My hot take. Ovechkin to the Islanders.
Sorry, Kevin, I'm going to squash that right away, man. I don't like, unless there's money going out, I don't see that being a possibility. They have 5.7 in cap space for next year, let alone they still have, oh my goodness, what do they have here? They have Adam Pelech to sign. He's an RFA with arbitration rights. They have Anthony Beauvillier. They have to sign. Casey Cizikas, he has to sign. And I would say that they would try to get maybe not Travis Zajac. He's 36 years old. Maybe at a league minimum, you might be able to get him in. But those are two, as far as Pelech and Beauvillier goes, those are two massive contracts that need to be signed within that time period. So as much as I want to be on board with that, I don't see that being a possibility. And sorry, one more person is Sorokin, their rookie goaltender, and he has arbitration rights as well. So it'd be very hard for Lou Amarillo to swing that, and also depends on who they take, who Seattle takes in that expansion draft.
Well, what are you thinking of Ovechkin? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, storyline wise, I think we're all with you. It's the financial reality that squashes that idea.
Okay, hold on. How much do you think Ovechkin is how much are you giving Ovechkin? Let's start there.
Oh man, I guess I'm assuming he wants maybe a 3-year term, maybe 4-year, just so that I think his motivation is to get the scoring to pass Gretzky within scoring, and that is his motivation. And if he gets another cup, great. He already has a cup. I personally don't think he wants another cup, but I think that is his driving motivation. So give him 3 to 4 years at, depends on whether or not if he wants to take a bit of a discount to be around people or players that can help him past that milestone. I'm going to say 4 years at $7 or $8 million, he'll probably take.
Yeah, because I was trying to think in my head, I'm like, what do you potentially offer that is realistic, but at the same time also acknowledging just how good he is? And yeah, I was wondering is 7 lowballing him? But no, if Devin feels that way too, yeah, I was kind of saying around that same range, 7, 8.
Okay, because the one thing that in Washington's not exactly right now a place of comfort. I don't think that they're on the way up. I think you've got the Kuznetsov rumors that are one thing. They haven't gotten past the first round since Barry Trotz left. They've been through 2 coaches. I don't think Washington is exactly in a great position. He's played some of his best overall hockey with Barry Trotz. He might. I wonder if he would consider taking a bit of a discount to play with the Islanders. That's what I'm wondering. I'm not saying he's going to I think he wouldn't. He's 35. I think he would be open to getting another cup. I don't think that that cements his legacy. And if he can get another cup with that goal scoring title, then you probably have to put Ovechkin. It might cement Ovechkin as the greatest goal scorer of all time.
I think that's not cemented yet, but I think overall he probably is, as of right now, the greatest goal scorer of all time. He is 164 goals back of Wayne Gretzky. And if he goes 4-year deal, that's 41 goals per season. Or if he goes 5 years, that's 32, just under 33 goals per season. So,
and he's already at what age?
35.
Okay.
So that's a big cap hit for anybody and term, especially the way that he plays. He's a big guy who loves to hit. He loves to shoot. I don't think he has much injury history as far as my knowledge goes. So I just don't see it with the Islanders. I really don't. There's too much. If they had the cap room, yeah, okay, I could see it. But yeah, I could maybe more likely see it with maybe a Carolina. They have the cap room. They have $28 million in cap space right now. They do have to sign a bunch of players like a Dougie Hamilton, a Jason Martinook, who won't take that much, just off the top of my head. But I don't see it with the Islanders.
Okay, I'm saying there's a possibility. I'm putting it out there, and I know Jeremiah's like, I love the hot take. It's either Caps or the KHL, but I'm gonna stick with it. I see a possibility there. But other than that, I think the Islanders are still a strong team. They're still going to be a contender in the East, but I do think they need to find some skill. That's, I think, ultimately where I think they are lacking. That's why I think Ovechkin's a bit of a fit. I don't see them involved in a Jack Eichel circumstance. Maybe they could. I don't even see them in a Sam Reinhart case. I know they were in on Taylor Hall. They were in on that conversation, so that could also be a possibility if it doesn't work out in Boston for Taylor Hall. The Islanders could be a possibility there as well. It feels like a bit of a disconnect, but in some ways, but maybe for Taylor Hall, it's a great opportunity for him. So I think ultimately for the Islanders, I think it's getting a little bit more skill in that lineup.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Right now they have 5 players or 6. Oh, hold on. From Josh Bailey, JG Pajot, Eberle, Nelson, Barzal, and Andersley, all those guys are making $5 million or more, up to $7 million with Andersley and Barzal. They have too much money tied up within that lineup. They need, if they're going to do it, I don't think it'll be a signing. It'll be a trade that they'll be able to do that. And it's okay. Are you going to give up a Noah Dobson? Are you going to give up Adam Pelech, a Ryan Pulak, maybe even a Scott Mayfield? As of right now, the only way that they can do that is with the trade.
Does a Sean Monahan or a Johnny Gaudreau fit there?
For sure. Oh my goodness, having Johnny Gaudreau and Barzal on the same line, that's deadly. And talk about if you want to get more scoring depth within that lineup, Monahan, he would be a good fit within that locker room, being surrounded by that leadership. I think that is a good possibility. And then the amount of depth you would have at center, you'd have Anders Lee, Barzal. Anders Lee, he plays the left wing and center. You have JG Pajot on the third line, and Leo Komarov. You have Oliver Wahlstrom, who's kind of come onto the scene a little bit. He's 21. If he can take a good step next year, that would definitely help within that lineup to create some depth, and especially that he has 2 years left on his ELC, just under 900, just under 900,000 a year, and then he's an RFA. So yeah, once again, it really depends on what type of package they're willing to give up for those type of players. But again, they have to sign. I think they're one of their number one priorities to sign is Bervilliers, Adam Pelech, and Ilya Sorokin. Who knows that if Sorokin can take a step forward next year too, and knowing Lou Amarillo, he's not going to be giving up anything for those players, and he will sign them for a cheap 3-year bridge deal.
Yeah, Lamoriello is one of the best GMs in the National Hockey League. So he knows what he's doing, and I do think people want to play for him. So that's the other thing too. So I think that and my point, like, to say that not only for free agency, but like if you're looking with players with no movement clauses, that when you say I have 10 teams that I don't want to go to, I don't think the Islanders are on many lists. It's not a place where they're like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. Not interested in going to the Islanders.
Maybe
not interested in hanging in New York.
The only person I would think that would be off the board within that would be a Brett Burns. And the only reason why I say that is because Lou Lamoriello, he has a very strict no facial hair policy.
Can you? Yeah, I mean, can you imagine Brett Burns without any facial hair?
You just look like a baby.
Yeah.
Which means that the Maple Leafs definitely wouldn't have gotten Jumbo Joe for the past couple of seasons if he had stayed in Toronto.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. So I think overall, we think the Islanders are probably, out of everybody that, I think the Islanders are probably come out of everyone that's not in the playoffs anymore. I think the Islanders are probably in the best shape. I'm not looking at them as like they're in drastic trouble, but they do need to add some skill. I think that's our conclusion.
Yep.
For that. Yeah. Let's get to the Stanley Cup Final. And really, I think Jeremiah is asking the question that I think is the big question: is do we feel Montreal has a chance? I, for one, am not going to count the Habs out and would love to see them beat the juggernaut that is Tampa Bay. I'm done counting them out. I mean, like, we counted them out against the Leafs, they won. Counted them out against Winnipeg, they won. We counted them out against Vegas, they won. And now they're facing the defending Stanley Cup champions. I guess let's start with, before we get to Montreal, maybe what did we learn about Tampa? What have we learned about Tampa Bay, first of all?
They're a damn good hockey team. I don't think that's I don't think we've learned much about them, honestly. They're the same old team that has been able to have skill up and down that lineup. And if you really go down that lineup, I think the unsung heroes are the Alex Killorn, the Andre Palat, Yanni Gourde, and Patrick Maroon doing Patrick Maroon things. He's kind of taken on the role as a villain in my mind towards any team that they played, and he's been able to kind of get the extracurriculars going within between the whistles and even during pregame warm up. So I don't know if I've learned much about them. It's kind of crazy that they've been able to sustain the amount of skill within that lineup, and I don't think that there's much that we can really that I can say right now that has made me been like, wow, I didn't know that about them.
I mean, I can't disagree with Devin there. Like, I really don't have much to say either, because they're just consistent and good.
Fair.
Well, what did you learn, Kev?
I've learned they're resilient. I mean, really, that 3-2 game, that game 6, that crowd. You go look at that game 7. That crowd started off as nervous as I thought most of the Vegas crowd was throughout the series against Montreal. And they are now, this is not a team that is necessarily relying on their skill guys to get it done. It was Yanni Gourde that got the winner. And it's up and down. It's up and down the lineup. Kucherov was barely shooting the puck, but he was playing. Andrei Vasilevsky continues to be a standout, and I think he's another goaltender that is continuing to grow. 4 straight series clinching shutouts that's impressive.
Quite the statement.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily have that superstar as everyone has talked about, but they have a team that they have learned so much from they have taken the sweep and they completely on the fly rebuilt that team to be a Stanley Cup contender. And there a lot of and the resiliency you look. Devin, I think that there's two teams that basically the Flames got gentlemanly swept that same year. And it's the trajectory of where the Tampa Bay Lightning have went and the Calgary Flames have went is fascinating. The Flames not in the playoffs this year, Lightning in the second straight Stanley Cup final. They learned from their mistake.
Well, I don't think they had the only people that have really kind of come on the scene since then for this the Tampa Bay Lightning has been Anthony Cirelli, Eric Cernak, and outside of that, I mean, Braden Point, he's been slowly getting better and just proves that he is a superstar, like a young superstar, like a Barzell in this league. Otherwise, I mean, Nikita Kucherov keeps on doing what he's doing. I think the one thing that is surprising for me is how little of an impact Steven Stamkos has been within everything. And it's more so, obviously, he's had his injuries, and that's if you take a grander look at his career, that's been the biggest surprise for me is the fact that he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and his impact, other than last year, he came into that lineup, had I think just under 3 minutes of ice time in that game, and he had that one goal, and that really was a game changer within that game of last year in the bubble. But outside of those young guys that have slowly emerged, as Sergachev, Cirelli, Yanni Gourde taking a step, really things haven't changed too much within that lineup to as far as personnel goes. But Kev, you are right; they've been resilient, and they have learned from that amazing season that they had when they got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets. So it's more of a mental change than a personnel change that has really solidified them being so dominant within this league.
But they did bring in Blake Coleman, and they brought in Barclay Goodrow, and they also brought in Patrick Maroon, who #Maroonesty. I'm going to try to see if that trends. This is his third straight Stanley Cup final. The former Oiler. He played with the Blues. He played with the Lightning last year, and now this year. #Maroonesty.
Talk about a guy who knows how to win, or who's figured out how to win throughout his travels throughout the NHL. You know what's funny is that I totally forgot that he was a Edmonton Oiler.
Yeah. So bringing those type of players in and insulating them into that lineup. You also brought in David Savard as well. If I'm the Canadiens, and I think that there is a weakness on the Tampa Bay Lightning team, I do think it's that defense. I think that I don't think they're as slow as Vegas. I think that their structure is fine, but I think overall, I think that defense can be had with the Canadiens' speed. And I don't think they have enough right shot strength for them to necessarily. I think the Canadiens have. That's where one area I do think the Canadiens have an opportunity. They're strong. Don't get me wrong, but I think that might be where they're weakest. Tampa Bay. Totally,
and you can see a Cole Caulfield being able to rip by them. They're a bit bigger. I mean, you have Victor Hedman, McDonough, and David Savard, who are 30 or older, and the foot speed is a bit questionable. Hedman, he can still make his way around. It's more so his as far as Hedman goes, his breakout pass that is very prominent within this league, and that is very underrated and maybe not talked about that much. Getting out of danger the way that he can. McDonough, he's been there. He's been a captain of the New York Rangers, and he's been he made that massive. Well, he was arguably the biggest part of the win, getting the winning goal to Yanni Gourde, because he had a hell of a penalty kill shift in the defensive zone before Yanni Gourde went in and scored. So as far as like the foot speed goes, yeah, I'd say the mid pack within the NHL. But if you are the Montreal Canadiens, you will be looking to expose that and take him to the outside, and that's where I think Cole Caulfield is going to be able to shine. How many breakaways does Paul Byron get? As well, like he it always seems like he's right there. So yeah, Kev, you are right. That is exactly where they're going to have to emphasize their game. The only problem with that is that you'll be stretching out the ice, and Tampa Bay can win in whichever way you want to play, and like that is where if you're just looking on paper, that is where Tampa Bay is ahead against the Montreal Canadiens, but he can't discount what the Canadiens have done, and the will and determination. How secretly good has Philip Denobin? He's been so underrated within this playoffs that he's been able to shut down the top line. And I love the fact that after every single series, he has a pizza in his hand.
Yeah, the pizza thing is awesome.
Yeah. So it's just that will be the game plan, is to stretch out the game, and that might be the detriment of the Montreal Canadiens too.
And actually, Michael in the comments has a really good point. I don't have the ability to bring it up like Kev does, but I think that's a fantastic question. Like, that's going to be the showdown of that series, is which goalie is going to pull that ace out of the hole and make it to the, or get the cup, not make it to the cup.
I'm going to be unpopular and lean a little bit towards Vasilevsky. Like, I mean, Carey Price is awesome. Don't get me. These are two awesome goaltenders. It's almost like comparing Chris to pick two incredible bands. This is literally what we are doing right now. We are basically Rolling Stones or Beatles. This is basically what we're asked to do at this particular point in time. And
fair enough, yep.
But I just look at where Vasilevsky he's won the cup, the 4 straight shutouts. He's made big save after big save. And again, you look from 2000 back from that sweep, and you keep growing a bit. You keep watching how he's grown through all of this. Price is probably, in terms of longevity, you might give it more to Price, but right today, I'd have to give it to Vasilevsky.
Your comparison, Rolling Stones or Beatles, is spot on, especially for those two goalies. They are, Carey Price has struggled a bit in the past, but I think that's because he's been overworked. And bringing in Jake Allen has this year for the regular season has really been, I think, helped Carey stay healthy and been able to be at the top of his game. Vasilevsky, he's just a young, good goaltender that hasn't really stumbled at all. If the reason why they did get swept is, partially on his fault, obviously, but I think overall the team was just not ready mentally need to be pushing at the right time going into the playoffs. So, man, I'm 50-50 on that. To me, that's a wash. Because Carey Price has made those saves, those big game-breaking saves. Vasilevsky, he can do that too. He's so athletic. The one thing that anytime that I picture Vasilevsky is his eyes are so dialed in. He looks possessed. He really does. And Carey Price is just, ho-hum, calm, cool, collective, oh, well, here we go. I got this kind of thing. And that calm demeanor by both of them actually is very it's kind of cool to see having that calm, cool, collective demeanor within a top end goalie is really nice to have if you're a defenseman. and you can rely on them. So it's a wash to me. I can't pick one.
Skills wise, I would probably agree with Devin's ultimate take and say that it's a wash. But as far as story wise, I think I'm pulling for Carey more, just because Vasilevsky has already. I guess I'm going for the emotional storytelling side of it. I would rather see Carey get his cup than see Vasilevsky win another. That being said, skills wise, you can't choose. They're both top of their game, excellent, amazing goalies. The only thing I would give Carey is that he's been that top tier longer. But that's probably the only thing that I could really give to Carey that Vasilevsky doesn't have.
Yeah. That's a great point. I sorry, Kev, if I cut you off there. I'm just going to say that I'm cheering for the Canadiens, not for the Canadiens' sake, but for Shea Weber, for and Eric Stahl, not so much a Corey Perry, but a Petrie. Those players that have been there for so long and not had the success that I feel like they really deserve. And obviously Carey Price, I would love to see him raise that Stanley Cup, and that is the only thing that I am cheering for the Canadiens for is for the players.
Speaking of your Corey, sorry.
No, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Okay. Just touching off of your Corey Perry comment there, Dev, this tweet that I posted into the group chat 2 days ago, I feel is perfect for you right now. I don't know if Corey Perry deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but after these past two postseasons, I'm going to stop actively arguing against it. You don't have to like the guy, but he contributes.
He's a Hall of Famer. And I will make the two arguments for that. It's the way that the Hall of Fame has been voted for the last few years. I'm sorry, if you're putting Kevin Lowe in the Hall of Fame, no offense, Oiler fans, Corey Perry is in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And Corey Perry has won a Stanley Cup. Corey Perry has won, and it's a Hockey Hall of Fame. Corey Perry also won a gold medal. I believe he also was part of the 2000. I want to say, was he part of? I'll have to look that up. I think he's won World Junior Gold.
Yep, he's part of that group.
Yeah, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's his next stop. You can hate on him all you want, but he's part of the hockey fabric. He's a first I don't think it's a debate. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Is it the longevity that he's had within the NHL? He's so good at what he does, and not to mention just being a pest and being someone that you hate to play against, but he's skilled enough to put up the numbers that he has. It truly is. He deserves to be there. And I will, as much as I dislike him, I respect him so much as a player, and he's able to be in the league as long as he has and still be effective. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it might be one less year than Patrick Maroon, but this is back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals for Corey Perry.
Yeah. Hashtag Perry-esty. Perry-esty. I'm going to make one of those.
Figure out the spelling before you try and make it a hashtag.
Yeah, I'll have to figure that out. I just before one more thing on Vasilevsky. Here is the this is interesting. Here are the 6 picks before Andrei Vasilevsky in the 2012 NHL entry draft. Buffalo, Mikhail Grigorenko, Dallas Radek-Faksa. Buffalo, Zygmunt Jurgensen. Ottawa, Cody Ceci. Washington, Tom Wilson. San Jose, Thomas Hertl. Chicago, Teuvo Teravainen, and then Vasilevsky. Who was the next pick? What team was the next pick after that?
God, is it going to be Calgary?
No, they were 2 picks after.
Okay. Toronto, Vancouver.
It was Philadelphia, the land of goaltending nightmare, and they ended up having to take Scott Laughton. So Andrei Vasilevsky was 1 pick away from the Philadelphia Flyers and 2 picks away from the Calgary Flames.
Who did Calgary pick?
Mark Jankowski.
Right. Yes. No.
Yeah.
No.
Vancouver that year.
Jay Feaster, you piece of shit.
Vancouver that year took Brendan Gaunce, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's just when you put it that way, as far as Philadelphia goes, it's just another kick in the nuts for them that they could have potentially had of Vasilevsky.
Well, and again, I'll reiterate what we talked about on Friday, Chris. I don't know if you know this, but because you're here, I'll bring this up. And for those that missed it, when we go back to the bubble 15, 16 months ago or whatever it was, do you know who the Montreal Canadiens' next opponent was?
I don't.
It was the Buffalo Sabres. Why is that significant? Because that would have been the team, the winner of that game would have played the Pittsburgh Penguins in the bubble off.
They would have been the 2014 getting into
They would have been the
playoffs.
24th team. And you look where Montreal is now, and you look where Buffalo is now.
Fair, yeah.
That is, it's quite fascinating. I guess a few other, I still think, so I'm going to start this time because I might be the one that thinks this is going to go longest. So I'm going to predict this. I am believing that this is a 7-game series, but I'm going to stick with the defending champs. I think that, I just think that they have ultimately, if I am, there's scoring, I can trust the scoring on each side. That for the Clydesdales, as they're starting to call that defense, in Montreal, I think is going to be there. But I think if it comes down to who's going to get that goal, I'm thinking I think the guy that out of all of them, it's Braden Point to me, and that's where I think Tampa has the edge. I think up and down they're willing to play both ways. And I think that they're going to push that they'll push that Montreal defense enough. I think it's going 7, but I do think Tampa is going to retain the Stanley Cup.
Chris?
I think for that one, if Montreal wins it, it has to be 7 games. I don't see Montreal winning in less than 7. That being said, I want Montreal to win, but I might kind of copycat Kevin here in that Tampa is still likely to win it. It's just my heart is not with Tampa.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. It's going to go 7, but I think Montreal does it. I think if you go, once again, if you look on paper, lineup, Tampa Bay outskills Montreal, but the will and determination that Montreal has shown within these playoffs, and the fact that they have been underdogs every single round, counting out at 3-1 over Toronto, counting out before sweeping the Winnipeg Jets, counted out before going to Game 7 against. Or it's Game 6 of it was I can't remember now. Game 6, Game 7 of 6. Thank you.
At home on St. John Baptiste Day.
Yes, thank you. It's been a long week for me. They just keep on proving everybody wrong, other than Montreal Canadiens fans, because no one is expecting them to be where they are now, and I don't think there's a lot of people expecting them to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I think that the Clydesdales, as Kevin mentioned, are amazing, barring any fucking injury. Because if they get injured, oh man, anybody within that lineup, if there's an injury, I don't know, it might be very detrimental to them, especially on that back end, because right now they have Gustafsson. He's in, only playing on the power play. He's playing maybe 7 minutes a night. Then outside of that, you have John Murrow, who's playing maybe 10 to 15 minutes a night, and then everything else is on that top 4 defensive unit. So I think that, barring any injury on the top 4, I think Montreal has it.
Fair. Tell us who you guys had comment, and we'll have a poll up tomorrow who you think will win the Stanley Cup. It's going to be very interesting. A lot of fun. We'll be recapping after every game in the morning, 9:00 Pacific, 10:00 Mountain. And it'll be fun. I think it'll be very interesting in the plus 40 degree hockey type weather that we are dealing with right now. But we're looking forward to that. Also, tomorrow will also be Gary Bettman's media availability. He has some things to deal with. We'll talk about a few of those things after. The one thing that was noteworthy in the media availability today is Joel Armia is on the COVID-19 list. So he is protocol. That doesn't mean anything at this particular point, but that was something that was significantly mentioned in terms of something to look out for. And Dominic Ducharme, from what I've been led to believe, should be back for Game 3 of this series.
Yeah, I've read that as well.
Yeah. So, and I have not seen any word yet on Jake Evans. And that's a guy, if he comes back, I do think is an interesting factor. But
yep,
in this
it adds more depth, and the fact that he's able to play the way that he does play, which is very defensive. And talk about an underrated player. They do miss him on that lineup. So yeah, if he is able to come back, hopefully they don't rush him back, and hopefully he doesn't rush himself back, considering he's had concussion issues. But I think within that, he understands where he's at. If he does come back, he will be an effective piece to the Montreal lineup.
For sure. Let's move on to some other things. The Sedins, for those who missed it, of course, are now part of the Canucks front office in a special assistant to general manager role. We haven't heard Chris's view on it, so now that Chris is here, we'd like to get kind of his perspective as what he thinks. And so I hand it to you, Chris. What are your thoughts?
Well, I feel it's probably fairly predictable. I love the idea of the Sedins joining management. I think that they're going to be very smart about how they go about this. I think that they're going to do their best to probably, because no one really knows what their long game is, like whether they actually want to eventually become GMs, or whether they want to do more of the personnel development side of things, or maybe even scouting. Who knows? And I think that's kind of why this title is so broad and general, is because they're allowing them to basically figure out what interests them and move towards that. So yeah, can't ask for two better guys, more the most highest of respect within the fan base is for these guys. So unless there's a Trevor Linden style breakdown in that relationship, I don't see this really going badly. I think that this is going to be a good move for the Canucks for their long-term future.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier this week. I agree. I think that the fact that they are having that long-term view on it, and they're able to learn from the base and slowly work their way up, and not just get there because they are the Sedins. I have a massive amount of respect for them for doing that. And overall, I think that it's hard to say whether or not it'll be a good fit and that they will be really good at their job. But I just think that everybody has this feeling that they will be good at the job, and that they will potentially want to become GMs one day. And I joked about this with Kevin, Chris, is that will they be the first co-GMs in the NHL?
I mean, they've broken that barrier every other time in their careers. So why not do it in management?
Yeah, exactly.
Break down that door.
Yeah, right. And just have a two-headed monster up top there. I think that'd be really fun kind of storyline that you can kind of follow within that. I love it. I think that they'll be a great fit up there, and I guess starting from the bottom and working the way up. It's because they are being a part of hockey development and being a part of the AHL, Abbotsford, whatever, insert name, or I guess Kevin said the Abbotsford Heat, jokingly earlier, that they'll be kind of in charge of development of players, and I think that's a very good role for them, and I wish them all of the success.
Yeah, I I don't think there's much more to say. I think we've pretty much covered that pretty much at length here. My only concern is when things go down, I think people are going to be expecting a bit more from the Sedins than what's necessary. So as we mentioned, I don't think for the Canucks and for the Sedins, I think less in the media this year, I think, is best.
And I think that's actually part of the game plan is they're not going to be like what Trevor Linden was. He was basically the public face of the franchise when he came in as president. That's not the game plan for the Sedins. They want them working more behind the scenes and learning the actual how the operations run and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, like you said, I don't see them being in front of the media very often. Henrik will do his rounds on the radio station and that sort of stuff on occasion, but I don't expect that to be a regular thing.
I agree with you and hope for that. Before I get to the next story, is there any other stories that you wanted to talk about before we hit this a very uncomfortable story we're about to talk about?
I can't think of anything else that we really had on the docket or potential agenda, so Let's rip that Band-Aid.
Okay, yeah, and it's a tough Band-Aid, but we do have to talk about it. Two players from the 2010 Chicago Blackhawks told management allegedly of a sexual assault alleged sexual assault. I need to make sure that I'm using the word alleged sexual assault here from video coach Bradley Aldrich. Brent Sopel and was part of that team. He has tweeted that the report so far is accurate. If you have not been able to follow the story or just learning about the story now, Rick Westhead has been from TSN CTV, has been doing a majority of the digging on this for the last few weeks. It is now getting into a number of people are starting to talk about it. Steve Dangle did a bit on his podcast this week. A few other people are starting to talk about it. It's reportedly, though, it was known by about the entire team during the 2010 playoffs. The Athletic has been doing some report on this. Paul Vincent told TSN this month that he informed then President John. I'm reading, by the way, from the Chicago Sun-Times. This is a direct quote of a paragraph. Told TSN this month that he informed then President John McDonough, General Manager Stan Bowman, Executive Al McIsaac, Skills Coach James Gary about Aldrich's alleged assault at a meeting in 2010, but that the group of Hawks executives rejected his request to report the incident to the police. And Brent Sopel said in a tweet, the front office should be in jail. The NHL is showing their true colors. This is absolutely disgusting that the NHL is doing nothing. And the Hawks are facing a lawsuit in Cork County Circuit Court from one of the two former players, identified under the pseudonym John Doe in the lawsuit, who alleged Aldrich assaulted him. And also, the lawsuit is seeking $150,000 in damages from the Hawks and claims that the players continues to suffer from the trauma of the incident. The player told radio station WBEZ this week that the sexual assault, quote, took me out of the high point of my game. The Hawks filed a motion June 14th to dismiss the lawsuit, but that motion was based on legal grounds, arguing the statute of limitations had expired and the player didn't exhaust his legal options before suing, rather than the alleged facts of the assault, according to the court documents obtained by the Sun-Times. The Hawks also find an objection to discovery. And I apologize that I'm reading, but I think that this is probably, for me anyway, the easiest way to handle this is base it on the reporting that has been done, and just kind of get you some groundwork on that. It's something that I do think that Gary Bettman is going to have to answer some questions about for sure this week. It is, I unfortunately believe that this is a story that it may be part of the dark shadow of the playoffs or the finals here, unfortunately. But it is something that has to be dealt with. And And I think we do, as we go through this, we will need to talk about it, and it is something we will have to address and deal with as we go forward. And unfortunately, for the stick to sports crowd, this is something that we can't ignore this. This is a very, very serious issue.
Yeah, absolutely is. Nothing short of disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have a whole lot to add other than that. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of words to be able to describe the emotions that reporting elicits.
Yeah, it's a massive black eye on the NHL, and just more so, I guess, on the upper management of the Blackhawks. It's a sad, disgusting, unacceptable on many levels, and it blows my mind.
It blows my mind as well. It was 11 years ago. The year before the Canucks got to the Stanley Cup Final, you kind of think about it, we were just reflecting 10 years, and where were you 10 years ago when, there's that whole conversation where, again, and we're talking about the 10 years of this is before that even, and that this is just coming to light. So I absolutely feel for the player and players that have been impacted by this, that they have had to live with this for so long. And the fact that this looks like a situation that was handed to management and management did nothing about it. That's just quite simply, this has to be dealt with.
And I don't think you covered this part, Kev, but what I read, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it right in front of me, but since being fired by the Blackhawks, this guy then went to a school and was I'm pretty sure a coach for the sports department or something like that at the school, and is now considered a sexual predator in that county and had other incidents. So clearly this wasn't a one-off incident. This guy has a perversion and a history behind it. So, yeah.
His name, by the way, is Bradley Aldrich. And I'm just quickly Googling this just to make sure. Yes, you're right. According to WBEZ Chicago, that is correct. Just from what I'm reading here, there is yes, he has some other he does have some other issues with him. So you are correct. So
and it's obviously not just the fact that if this was dealt with properly back in 2010, then no one else would be a victim within that circumstance with him, Bradley Aldridge. Or it's disgusting, because if you do have somebody who has wronged you within anything, you need to speak out, because if you don't speak out, then they're just going to keep on going and become a snowball effect. So stop. It's so sad. That's fucking terrible that has happened.
Well, you're right. I agree with you, Devin. It is so important to speak out, but it's also important and incumbent on people to listen as well. When this happens, we need to take this seriously. And it clearly decided, management here, according to these reports, decided to not go to the police.
Yep.
Yeah. So we have to talk. This is just me from our view here. I don't think that we can go through talking about hockey and not bring the story up. So unfortunately, we will have updates for it. Not that we're happy about it, because it's not a happy story or anything like that, but we will share. And I would encourage you to follow Rick Westhead, because he's done a lot of work on this as well. Should we just leave it there?
I don't think we have much more to talk about. So unfortunately, it seems like we're ending on a downer.
Well, I think you should, Kev, you need to address your hat situation. I think that is apparent.
Jean-Guy Soler, what about the fact that Kevin needs to turn his hat backwards to fit in right now? I feel like I fit in.
Or do I need to get headphones?
There.
That too.
That's the question there. Yeah. Yeah. Fair. Maybe next time. I forgot. But I have this type of hat on, so I don't weirdly wear it backwards. It doesn't work.
That's fair.
Well, it doesn't work as well as ball caps do.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. How do we follow everyone?
I guess this means I'm first for once. You can follow me at Schneids on most social media.
Follow me on Twitter at Gordhouse09.
I am Sean is Beardy Canuck 03, Tyler TNOBLE, I am KEVOLE, and podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the hockey podcast, YouTube.com, the hockey podcast. We will be back Tuesday morning to recap Game 1, Stanley Cup Final, Montreal Canadiens, Tampa Bay Lightning, and we will all talk to you very soon. Bye for now.